Hi, my name is Paige Hanger, and thank you so much for joining me at my symposium talk. I'm a grad student here at MSU, and we will be talking about new womanhood in bicycle advertisements at the turn of the century. So here we go. Between 1893 and 1895, roughly 4 million cyclists were on the road, and a third of them were women. Marketing companies pushed against social expectation, gender norms, women's fashion, and prudish Victorian parents to cater the bicycle and its advertisements to young women. Firms crafted clever designs and idealized female form, pastoral motifs, adventure, and romance to lure the up-and-coming new woman into buying a two-wheeler. However, marketing took a risk. Society was skeptical and feared how women's new autonomy would affect gender norms. Many feared that women would give up domesticity entirely. Femininity was undergoing changes in response to dress reform, educational inclusion, the suffragette movement, newfound freedoms, and the introduction of women into the workforce. Women's visibility started to shift social norms and result in an anxious public questioning and mistrusting the new. Advertising shifted public perception of the bicycle and made the bicycle acceptable for women's consumption. At the end of the century, because of marketing, society linked femininity with athleticism and fetishized its fashion. Advertisers used the image of an ideal athletic beauty and the male gaze not only to make it appropriate for women to participate in athletic activities, but simultaneously link beauty, grace, competence with femininity. The bicycle was marketed as an aspirational tool and thrust women into the visible social sphere and propelled new womanhood into the next century. The older Victorian generation was conservative, Republican, religious, and denounced women's sports altogether. Victorian women wore tiny heels, corseted wasp waists, layers of underwear, and restrictive skirts that decreased mobility. Victorian women could not sit easily, nor could walk for more than an hour, not only because their clothes impeded their movement, but also because they lacked the physical stamina and strength. Victorian ladies led sedentary lives. Victorians believed it was not in a woman's nature to develop her muscles. Advertisement companies were at war with Victorian attitudes, and the bicycle was problematic due to its mobility for women to go when and where they wanted autonomously. The placement of the seat between the legs, sweating, and physical strength all threatened new women's modesty, was inescapably tied to the bicycle. Victorian women condemned cycling, concluding that cycling led to infertility, disfigurement, and ruptured the hymen, making the rider no longer virginal and pure. Advertisers tangoed with older societal norms and encouraged women to be active. Publications venomously opposed long-standing tradition that women should be inactive and sedentary. French hygienists concluded that exercise could prevent a slew of ailments like anemia, rickets, and obesity. And Punch published a caricature titled The Venus of Milo in 1870 in the upper left corner of your screen. It displays the judgment surrounding beauty and fashion standards of the Victorian era. A flock of Victorian women circle the sculpture. They look at Venus with upturned noses, criticizing antiquity's standard of beauty. They gasp at her large, bare feet, her natural waist, and her simple hairstyle. The gaggle are hunched because of their tight corsets and feet stuffed into heeled shoes. Her hair is an elaborate hair. Punch's caricature pokes fun of the crippling expectations of beauty in the Victorian era. The Edwardian woman wanted to break free of domesticity. She could attend college, some even going to medical school, travel abroad, spend time away from home, and disappoint their parents by engaging in tennis, swimming, and other athletic activities. Shop and career girls were busy running to catch the omnibus, eating sandwiches on their lunch break. These women were not only making money, but were demanding dress reform. The modern woman needed fashion redesign to accommodate and support their new roles. The new woman needed innovative skirts that allowed movement, shoes that could support an 8-hour work shift, and alterations in fashion that embraced new freedoms and indulgences like the bicycle. She needed to sit, walk, twist, and turn. Women began to embrace sensible, smart, and simple garb. Blouses based on men's clothing were in vogue, paired with basic monochromatic shirt and jacket known as the creed suit, which became the it girl's daytime uniform and became the trademark of autonomy and self-determination. The creed suit made global headlines when Meta Hari was convicted of being a German spy and executed by firing squad in this very suit. These changes to women's attire were visible evidence of modern attitudes. Charles Dana Gibson's illustration, The Gibson Girl, was the embodiment of new womanhood and Edwardian attitudes. She was elegant, beautiful, fun, self-assured, intelligent, well-read, driven, and a woman who could participate in any activity like ice skating, golf, cycling, and she was graceful while she did it. She was not only healthy, but beautiful, and beautiful because she was healthy. She was the epitome of the middle-class icon. Gibson's drawing tethered newfound freedoms, athletic leisure like the bicycle, with class, wealth, and status, and capitalist consumption. Life magazine's caricature on the right side of your screen, Punch's caricature titled Here's a How You Do on the left, and Gibson's illustration The Weaker Sex 2 all express societal anguish surrounding shifting gender roles and anxiety around new femininity and what this meant for society. These advertisements or these caricatures conclude that new womanhood would be at the cost of masculine embarrassment and masculinity. The bicycle was the first luxury good that was advertised in mass periodicals. Bicycle prices were exorbitant, from 10 to 30 pounds in the UK to 100 and 150 in the US in 1895, which is around $3,000 to $5,000 today. On average, a working family made around $600 during the second half of the 1890s, which is around $18,000 today. Most families could not afford such a luxury. The cost made cycling a purely middle and upper middle class activity. The bicycle was a public display of wealth that charmed the middle class and made it a hot commodity for new money in America. Other wealth symbols like the piano declined by almost 50% in sales. The bicycle became the standard of middle class wealth and leisure. The American cycling industry doubled 7 times in 5 years. It doubled in 1895, again in 1896, grew by 40% in 1897, and by 30% in 1889. However, it was not until the late 1890s that the bicycle became safe for women to ride. Early models like the Velocipede were challenging to operate, with huge 5-foot diameter wheel made it impossible to steer a mount. Additionally, the smallest amount of debris in the road would buck the rider off the handlebars. The invention of the safety bike in 1885, coupled with the diamond frame in 1892 and pressurized tires in 1889, was stable and welcomed a female market. The safety bike was chain-driven and positioned the rider closer to the ground, between 2 equal wheels. Manufacturers accommodated women's skirts by removing the top tube of the diamond frame and creating a drop frame. The drop post bicycle became known as the ladies' bicycle, here in the center of the screen. Although the drop post was 25 pounds heavier than the man's, additionally, the ladies' bike included a chain cover to prevented skirts from getting caught. Advertisement companies tangoed with public opinion. Designers and manufacturers calmed conservative worry about the bike seat. Victorians were outraged by the bike seat, believing it provided sexual stimulation. The bike seat was revised. Designers changed the seat to look less phallic, shortened the nose, widened the seat, which solved society's woes surrounding women's modesty and the bicycle. In the top right, you'll see Hart patent safety skirt. This advertised, it was as smart as a riding habit. In 1896, women's bicycles were produced more than men's. American consumers spent $20 million on bicycle accessories alone, roughly $6 billion today, and spent $30 million on only bicycles in 1896, roughly $9.7 billion today. Many middle-class men had already been riding a bicycle, and thus advertisements chased women's wallets. Cycling magazines printed bicycling literature, informational reports, comments, proper bike etiquette, cycling love stories, and manuals. Bicycle advertisements promised glamour, well-being, middle-class status, and romance. Artists and advertisers morphed long-standing feminine tropes and organic motifs with effortless beauty of Mother Nature to invite feminine markets and encourage women to pedal. Illustrators chose decorative, undulating forms, non-realistic decorative Edens, and ornate motifs to combat fears that female cyclists were non-feminine. These illustrations insisted that the bicycle had unified women and nature. William H. Bradley's advertisement, Victor Bicycles in 1896, on the left side of your screen, shows 3 chic female cyclists wearing soft flowing dresses. Their billowing and ethereal forms almost obscure the machine beneath them. Bradley depicts idealized femininity, elegant postures who almost look angelic. They appear to be 3 sensual goddesses escaping ordinary life and embracing beauty, freedom, and grace. Advertisers capitalize on fantasy and seduction. They are no longer women, but transformed into cycling muses, embracing her visibility in society. In 1896, advertisement from Remington Bicycles for the Harper's Weekly, here in the center of your screen, introduces 6 different riding postures. All riders vary in the ways one could ride: with a cigarette, hunched over, in tandem, and the perfection of the lady cyclist. She dazzles and cruises confidently by. This ad displays gender barriers are disappearing, and women are being included into the societal sphere and are comfortable with the opposite sex. The handbook for lady cyclists states to look well is as much an ambition for every lady cyclist as to ride well, and benefits the world by adding beauty to it. Cycling should be graceful, pretty, and charming, as well as enjoyable. Hummer's bicycle ad, over here on the right side of your screen, shows a couple complimenting the elegance of a female rider in the distance. They remark, but then you see she rides a Humber. The Humber Cycle Company suggests that only their bicycle displays a woman's figure the right way, tying the sexualized female figure to grace, sophistication, and femininity with capitalism and commodification. Edward Pennefield's ad for Stearns Cycling Company reads, "Ride a Stearns and be content." A fashionable young lady holds tight to the handlebars. Her feet are outstretched not by her pedals, but in front of the wheel. She rides not only for mobility and utility, but for the joy of it. Pennefield's poster articulates that women are allowed to indulge in adventure. Men and women were commingling more than they had in previous generations. Public spaces like parks, theaters, train stations, department stores decreased gender segregation and made running into the opposite sex a daily occurrence. Additionally, the class luxury of the weekend made it possible for the affluent to mix and bump into each other. This fostered an excitement that one could run into their future Mr. or Mrs. at any point. Advertisements capitalized on middle-class romance and sold that women could find their husbands if they embraced athletics, health, and the bicycle. Cycling romance flourished in women's magazines like Women's Cyclist, The Wheel Woman, The Stand, and became the next sensation. Love stories might have started with a crash, but always ended in a freshly minted marriage proposal. Cycling romance stepped away from Victorian tradition and ventured into something more adventurous, but always maintained heteronormative relationship. Published in Bow Bells in 1896, A Bicycle Story tells the narrative of a husband who refused to let his wife cycle. However, one day he catches her wearing a cycling outfit, and from then on he was her biggest advocate and could not wait to see her gliding by, displayed and beautiful on her bike. Most cycling romance start with an unlikely pair hating each other at first and ending up falling in love and pedaling into the sunset. Popular stories end with a husband vowing that he'll never say a word against bicycling again. Sales and marketing teams were cautious and tiptoed around implying that cycling was more alluring than traditional domestic life. Love stories tied the lure of cycling with pleasing men, the male gaze, sex appeal, heteronormativity, and marriage. Frances Abbott, an American suffragette, said in 1889, "I have lived to see the woman who never wished her daughter to have a bicycle ride a wheel herself in the company with that daughter." Abbott's words show how effective marketing was in shifting public opinion and making the bike acceptable for women. During 1894, there were roughly over 1 million female cyclists in the United States. Marketing companies danced and added constant pressure to societal expectation, gender norms, women's fashion to expand the market to women. Designers utilized the female form, pastoral and organic motifs, sex appeal, health, adventure, and romance to pique interest with new womanhood. Advertisements capitalized and insisted on linking grace, beauty, competence, and the male gaze with femininity. The bicycle was a sensational device that propelled women into modernity. Thank you so much for watching my talk, and I hope you have a wonderful day.